G'day guys, welcome back to Beers and Breakevens, heading into round 13, the first major buy round of the season, arguably the biggest round of the year. Brought to you by Bloke in a Bar. Make sure you go out and grab yourself a case of beer this weekend, the beer of SuperCoach, and of course, Blue Wealth Property, who obviously in the rugby league world, we've got a pretty big event next week, State of Origin Game 1 on the Wednesday night, but in between that, we've got a little Blue Wealth sandwich just quietly, a couple of events, which I'll throw to my co-host, 5'8", vice captain, bench warmer, Timmy Williams. Welcome.
Good to be along, mate. Yeah, I love the major bye weeks. Firstly, because I've been planning for it for a long time, and you know you hope as an overall player that it's going to lead some green arrows next week. But I just love that because there's only 5 games, and you've been prepping for it. You often have a good cluster of players in every game, and they mean so much to your overall score. Whereas there's games you go through and it's a full round where you might not have any, or you might have 1 or 2, but they're 80% owned, doesn't mean much. But this week, every single player, and you get players that you haven't played in your team like Jared Croker or Josh Schuster. It's just fun.
Oh, mate, it's unreal. And you said, obviously, you've got a few players in each game that, you know, you might not normally play, but they mean so much to you. And then the opportunity for pods this week is massive. We're going to talk about a few biggies.
Yeah, like if Phoenix Crossland gets a try this week, it's going to be probably the best moment of my year. It's
right up there with them.
Yeah, it's going to be so much fun. Big if. But Blue Wealth Property, mate. So 2 events coming up this week. Tuesday, 30th of May, next week, I suppose. Sydney Olympic Park Wealth Through Property event. That is at 6:30 p.m. on Tuesday, the 30th of May. There's also one on the 1st of June at 6:30 p.m. at the Hilton Hotel in Sydney. So, mate, if you cannot get to it, there's also a webinar that can be accessed. So we've got the link in the YouTube description. You can reach out to us and get it via SC Playbook, via Rugby League Guru. We've had heaps of people linking up to these events, and the feedback's been outstanding. I know Tony and the team have been very happy with it all, and very happy to work with the Beers and Breakevens faithful. So, yeah, get along to those 2 events and learn about wealth through property. Will not regret it.
Mate, those 3 days, that could be one of the biggest Larry Emders of all time. You go wealth through property Tuesday night, 6:30 p.m, State of Origin Wednesday night, then Thursday, wealth through property again at the Hilton Hotel Sydney. Could be worse.
Yeah, look, not too bad, is it? Tony and Mort, they'll be sore after those 3 days, won't they?
Mate, and shout out to the great Tony. He took part in the Bulldogs golf day, and he won the bloody thing.
Did he really?
Yeah, can you believe it? His staff kept telling me that he takes every second day off to go play golf, so he should be winning it. But
it must have been it was definitely a handicapped event. He's playing off 36, Tony. Actually, I think they increased the handicaps to 41 a few years back. So Tony might be off 41 and cleaned off that. But mate, when you play handicap, it's level playing field. So
he got one of the coolest jackets for it I've ever seen. Royal blue, the old doggy symbol. It's unreal. So shout out to Tony. You couldn't win a fucking shit in SuperCoach, but you're getting it done on the golf course, so well done to you, mate.
To be honest, I'd prefer win on the golf course than SuperCoach as well. So
I'd rather you win on the golf course than in SuperCoach, but yeah, can't win them all. Speaking of, you've got my trophy. Hurts.
Yeah, got it, and mate, it's been concreted at the table after the amount I beat you by on the weekend.
Yeah, it was calling it a landslide would be complimentary to me, I think.
What's your saying about when you get me by 20 points one week, what happens the week after? You poke the bear?
You normally get me by 100. Instead, this week you got me by about 1,000. So, yeah, it was a good old-fashioned rugby league fisting, which was great to enjoy.
1,381 for the Stallions. So, really, real good week. Very happy with it. Up into 3,026 overall. I've got full squad of 13 playing this week, active players. So, getting there, mate, on a bit of a charge.
Yeah, I'm happy for you. 1,191 for me, and if I wouldn't have taken your advice of playing Buller, I might have gone sub 1,000. So that was nice.
Who did you want to play instead of Buller?
We just get the show over and done with, please. 18,634, drop 2,000 spots. Really hoping, mate, I can make some ground up this week. I think you're going to make massive ground. I wouldn't be surprised if you get into the top 1,000 this week, but I'm hoping for myself I can make it respectful.
Well, your numbers are great this week.
Numbers are looking good. Planned well for it. I am taking a huge gamble, which we'll talk about very soon. I'm pretty much putting my...
He's bringing in Tyson Gamble.
Not far off. We'll talk about that very soon. But yeah, I'm just about ready to send the trophy to the engraver to have your name on the side, and then we'll be one apiece. You know, just a draft guy having a go in the classic world, trying to hold his own. And
Mate.
yeah, I'm planning for next year already, I think, as far as we go.
We both know that there can be a 400-point swing in the space of two players. May or may not have happened to me last year. Not too far off this time, so that can change very quickly. Especially, it's the bye period. This is where you make your moves.
And this week I am making a big move, which, as I said, we'll get to soon, but it could, it'll either end our competition, I think, or it could really
Game
open
on.
up. So we'll see. We will see how we go.
Keen?
What was that?
I said I'm keen for it.
Oh, you can. Good. Glad I paused then. All right. We will now go and have a look at the top scorer from the weekend in the Beers and Breakevens group, which has now been closed, I believe.
It's been closed. I've
Red
screenshotted
Rover.
thousands of names. So if you end up winning SuperCoach or winning the Beers and Breakevens group and your name isn't on my screenshots, I will call you out and you will not be the champion.
Unlucky. So this week we had Aaron, the mechanic. He scored the most this week, 1,592.
It was one of the bigger moving rounds, like in terms of scores being dispersed. The range of like a few thousands out there up to, what was it, 1,590 or something. That's one of the great swings in SuperCoach.
And shout out to Tyson, who's now the new leader in our group. Have you seen where X is now?
No?
Where do you reckon he's ranked in our group? Not overall, in our group. Where do you reckon he's ranked?
10?
Did you already know that?
No.
He's exactly 10.
He's dropped to 10.
He's dropped to 10. So remember 3 or 4 weeks ago when he was first and he was impossible to catch? He's already down to 10th.
Matt,
Which, may I add, I would give my left nut to be 10th. But for
don't get me
X,
wong.
It certainly is a fall. So I don't know where that puts him overall. Oh, I can read where that puts him overall. 22. It's not bad, all things considered.
To say someone's got it won before, I mean, even the bye period for of all things. But, yeah, mate, we're still riding next. We hope he bounces back. But it's a great show that, mate, SuperCoach changes so quickly. And it's really difficult to get that through people's heads that are sitting 10, 20, 30,000. Oh, gone, can't do anything. Honestly, one big pod play can move you up thousands of spots 1 week.
Yeah, just having a look at X's team. Brandon Smith, Harry Grant, Payne Haas, Fafita, Preston, Cam Murray. Missing a lot this week. Fullbacks are Latrell and Teddy. So, yeah, going to be a big test for him this week. Shout out to him.
Yeah, good luck, big fella.
Good luck. Hopefully you bounce back, brother. All right. Yeah, so the mechanic, if you can send your details to Beers and Breakevens at gmail.com, trying to get back to find your name, which was, of course, Aaron. So reach out, mate. Beers and Breakevens at gmail.com. We'll get that sorted. Over the next couple of weeks, they will all be sent out. All right. Should we rip and tear into some team lists, Timmy?
Get stuck in, mate.
All right. Thursday. Now, of course, it is the bye round, guys, so we have only got 5 games of rugby league football this weekend. A Thursday, a Friday, 2 Saturday, and 1 Sunday. So to kick off the weekend on Thursday, 7:50 coming to you from KO Stadium. That's in Redcliffe. The Dolphins. Nicarima at fullback. I did not see this one coming. I think, I mean, I'd still be stoked if I had Isako this weekend, but I really thought that he'd get a shot at the 1 jersey. I still reckon there's a chance he does, potentially. But maybe that's just me being hopeful.
I opened up the NRL.com and got the team list up yesterday and had on the headline of the page, I always pick 3 players, and it had Milf, and I went, yes. I'm like, Isaiah Katoa, having sold him a while back, I've gone, Katoa's not there.
Yeah.
Jumped in, and it was like Nicarima to fullback, Milf and Katoa in the halves. What?
Yeah, now he did play fullback for the South Sydney Rabbitohs last year for a couple of games, and wasn't pretty. Was not pretty at all. So, very interesting one there. Isaiah Katoa, as you said, named 7, but the big one, Tafare, named on the bench. Are you happy as a Tafare owner just to have him, I guess?
You're happy if he's going to contribute to your 13.
Yeah.
If you've got... Look, at the end of the day, it's a win. It's a really weird one. It's a win because... so many people, for context, Adam Drucey was on the SC Playbook website last night and he's got his player ownership data, and he also had data around how many players that each team has this week. And his data said that I think it was around about 1 in 3 of the top rank, like top 10,000 or top 10% of super coaches will be short at least one player this week. That's even if they boost. That's also including players like, we'll get to them shortly, but Tafade and Lockie Miller. So lots of teams are short this week. So in that sense, if you own Tafade, like if he plays 10 minutes off the bench, he gets 10 points. So it was 10 more than you had. If you've got more than 13 and you didn't really need him, then, well, it's going to stunt that potential cash growth after his big score in his first game. So it's a weird one, but I guess it's a victory.
I think if you are a Tafade owner, you are hoping and praying for an early HIA to an outside back. And if so, huge W.
And he could still start. So Brenko was sort of limping a little bit late or had a bit of a niggle late in the game on the weekend against the Storm.
Always does.
Yeah, he always does. So maybe he could come in there. But, I mean, even if, let's say Katoa did drop out and Cody went back to fullback and Asako went to fullback, Eddie Lee probably comes in on the wing. So they'd need probably one of the centres to drop out. But
can I ask you, do you think there's a chance that Wayne Bennett just sort of puts him on through the middle?
I don't know. Is he?
I hadn't thought about it until just now. I mean, he's a big bit of gear.
Well, they've got Wallace, Nichols, and Teague, who are all middles anyway, who can play decent minutes. So, probably don't need to, but maybe.
Yeah,
it's an odd one.
Yeah, it's a very if we get to the end of this weekend and he doesn't get on the field, I also wouldn't be shocked, to be honest with you. I think he will, but it wouldn't shock me if he doesn't get on the field. If everything goes right for them and it's a close game, I don't know if you...
And that's the thing, like, say they would have put on a bit of a score and they got a bit of a lead, he could come on for someone like Brenko or Ewan Aiken, who had hammy concerns this season, but it's just it's a guess. It's a guessing game. I don't know what's going to happen.
All right, for the St. George Illawarra Dragons, Bud Sullivan named at 7. Obviously, no Benny Hunt this week. The Molo boys, they both start in the front row, and Jack de Bellin moves back to jersey 13. We said it last week that we want to see Jack de Bellin's role under the new coach. Played 18 minutes last week, which was all good and well, but Blake Lowry got injured. So I'm still...
And Jack Bird was out as well.
Yeah, so I don't think we know what JDB's role is just yet. I still can't see him playing less than 60. I reckon 60 at absolute worst in this side. I think he's been named the skipper this week, so you'd expect big minutes. I do prefer him in the front row just because he plays a little bit more of a link man sort of role when playing 13. But I don't think you can go too far wrong with JDB.
No, he's rock solid. I'd be very surprised if he played anything less than 60 to 65. I do think probably the 65 to 70 mark would be the norm. Like, just playing through the middle, to go through 80 each and every week, it's a big ask. That being said, if there is an injury and they need someone to play bigger minutes, it's him straight away. And to be fair, he's played 70 plus he's played 68 plus minutes since round 7, so... Maybe does just continue. Oh, sorry, mate. No, it is right. I was looking at the score or minutes. So the minutes have been there. 683k, 64 on the weekend in 80 minutes with 58 in base. Rock solid. I wouldn't be paying 680 for him, but owners, happy as.
Yeah. Friday night, we've got the Parramatta Eels taking on the North Queensland Cowboys. Tough week to be a North Queensland Cowboy. Obviously coming off a drumming hurts, but coming off a drumming... respectfully to the West Tigers. Tough pick. Tough one.
Yeah, I was out at the game at Leichhardt Oval and obviously there's no bias towards any club. I was just biased towards my SuperCoach players and essentially Dream Buller. There was a moment at the end of the game and Buller set up a try with about 3 or 4 minutes to go and I ran off to the loo as soon as the ball was put down, hooting and hollering and cheering, ran to the toilet, came back, it was all very quick. And then my mate goes, who also had Buller, goes, Buller set one up. He set one up. I go, yeah, no, mate, like I saw I was here for you. He's done it again. I'm like, you are kidding me. It was a great night out at Leichhardt, I'll tell you that much.
So for Parramatta this week, Joe Offahengawi's obviously made the move, so he will line up in the front row for Parramatta. Matty Dory on the edge. Young bloke Luca Moretti makes his debut. Actually coached Luca when he was a teenager. Really good kid. Very, very talented guy. He's gone the long way around, but he is finally there. But my talking point here, obviously Ryan Madison and everything out. Hello, Jermaine Hopgood. How good?
What position is Moretti?
Front row, second row. He actually, he was the first guy in 30 or 40 years or something to, in the same year, make schoolboys league in Union.
Wow.
Very talented kid. Yeah.
Do you reckon you're going to get a shout out after his debut when he scores the match and says, I'm here because of the guru?
Well, if he remembers his time in the 14Bs when he got moved from the second row to centre, maybe he will. I don't know. Maybe centre to second row, some bullshit. Anyway, I talk about it more than he does, I think.
Maybe. So, yeah, obviously Joe Offengowie goes in there as well, but Hopgood, I mean, it's a 4-forward bench, 3 middles, plus obviously Brendan Hansel slot in at hooker, but they need to win games, and Hopgood in now a pack lacking, a lot of the experience that it had, he's got to play 65, doesn't he?
I reckon he'll go close to 80 this week. I do.
Yeah.
Especially with like debutant on the bench and a hooker. I think he'll go. I think he'll push close to 80.
Yeah. We'll get to Skibbs obviously a bit more later, but obviously the two of the main picks this week were Dylan Brown and Cody Walker in the same position. If you did prefer Cody Walker, Hopgood's a really solid VC option.
Yeah, I back it.
Yeah.
For the Cows.
Hey, before you move on, Matt Dory. Not one I'm happy to froth on, but they've lost. And look, I'll state first and foremost, I'm not that keen on him, but the reality is Sean Lane's gone for a fair while. Madison's got the calf injury. He could be gone for a while. They've got lots of injuries. 283K, 2RF. Is he an 80-minute man for them now?
Could be, but
and you look at the team, there's no edge back rower's name there.
Yeah, no, fair. I've never been a huge Dory fan. I've never overly rated him. I think even when he came in at the start of the year, people pretended like he was going a little bit better than what he was.
Like he played 73 and 72 minutes the first 2 rounds for scores of 34 and 41 with base of 32 and 41. So it was all in base, but I think you add in probably the bye next week.
Once you add in the bye, I don't know how you could bring him in. If you still got him for whatever reason, sure.
If you thought
fist pump, but
if you thought and maybe a decent score this week, and then a little bit of a cash grab prior to Lane or Maddo, whoever coming back, but it's the bye just takes away one game of cash growth for him. So yeah, probably not.
Yeah, I just don't see it personally. I'm just having a look at his New South Wales covers if he's been playing in the last few weeks. I haven't even kept track of it. So yeah, it's to be fair, he's played in the second row, round 6, round 9, round 10. So what his last game was 2 weeks ago. Scored a try in that, to be fair. Had a try assist as well. So not a bad game, but I don't know. I just don't.
Probably better options.
Doesn't do it for me, yeah. Without the bye, it's a slightly different conversation, but no. Cowboys. Zach Labert makes his debut at centre, the younger brother of Kyle, who constantly gets picked at halfback for the PNG side, and every time he plays, we go, why doesn't he have an NRL team? Zach, I'm hearing, very talented, and I said it on Bloke on Monday, but I believe that they're looking at him as the replacement for Peter Hiku next year. So a debutant to watch there. You got Derby on the wing as well. Benny Hampton comes into the 6. 12, Lukey. Now, is that his jersey number? Is that what he scored last weekend?
Yeah, what's the count? 11 minutes, 47 seconds for Lukey chat to come up. Thankfully, we record...
Here we go. Here we go.
Is this the same...
Here comes backflip DCE over here. Let's go.
Is this the same Helam Lukey that we recorded, for the first time ever, I might add, a special podcast on Thursday because Luciano Leilua was cleared to return? In that podcast, I said Helam Lukey is not a buy because Leilua was going to eat into his minutes.
Just take some ownership. That's all you have to do occasionally, okay? Jakey Granville named in jersey 13. Now, when I have a look at this side, Tim, the thing that stands out for me, obviously Taumalolo, jersey 22. I think he comes in and takes someone's spot. The other one I think is a good chance to come in and take someone's spot is Mitch Dunn. So I've had a few people that sent me their sides that have got Jack Gosling in their sides still from a few weeks ago. I reckon there's a really good chance he could lose his spot to Dunn or Taumalolo.
True.
So there's a few dominoes to fall there still. I think, thankfully, it's a Friday game, so you'll know reasonably early. You might even know by Thursday night. But I would be watching that space very closely.
Because I'm just getting his ownership stats up now. I don't have ads last week data, but it'll be pretty close for the Goz. But there was enough out there who had him, wasn't there?
I don't have numbers on it, but I've had a weird amount of teams sent to me this week that have him in their side.
Yeah,
it shocked me.
For a period, he was actually he was going all right and ticking along, scoring okay. So it didn't look like a bad go, and he's probably generated a bit of cash. However, this was the week you need him to punch out a couple.
This was the one.
Yeah.
Yeah. All right, let's move to the Saturday games. We've got the Warriors taking on the Broncos. For the Wars, Rocco Berry is at centre. Jackson Ford returns, but Lukey Metcalf at 6. Now, the coach, my boy, very, very happy to see him in there. The coach came out and said the other day that I'm pretty sure he said he expects Tamate Martin to return after their bye. Their bye is round 16. So you will get 3 games of Metcalf, but I don't know, getting someone into your team at 5'8" at the moment is pretty tough. But geez, I think there's a chance that it could be a very good 3 weeks for him. We know how talented he is. It's a huge punt, but if you're looking to make a move somewhere, maybe.
Yes,
I love him, and I'm not doing it. Someone out there with testicles bigger than mine, which wouldn't be overly impressive. It's a move that you could make.
So he'll get round 13, 14, 15 into the bye, and then has round 19 coverage. And we think, well, he's a chance, has 3 games to win the spot, but obviously Tamate coming back.
I personally don't think he can win the spot. I reckon Tamate will still be first choice. My prediction.
Based on that, I don't think he can go there then, because then he goes back and probably... Would they carry Dill Walker and Metcalf on the bench, do you think?
I reckon there's a chance they will, yeah.
Yeah. In which case, he becomes that bench plotter, and even if he looks set to make big cash, he could play a 20-minute bench role.
I think if you're going to do it, it's a 3-week play as a huge pod for the next 3 weeks, if you're going to do it.
Yeah.
If you've got trades up your sleeve, might be a move you can make. As I said, I love him to bits. I'm not doing it, but I think it's worth mentioning.
Lack of dual positioning is a bit of a killer as well. That would have been
Big
very
time.
handy.
Yeah, for sure. So, yeah, that's the Wars. Jackson Ford, if you've still got him, a little W there for you. For the Bronx, Sailor at 1, Dean Mariner on the wing. Palacia and Corey Jensen start up front. Kobe Hetherington in jersey 13. The bench, though, Willison and Piakura, who we were lucky enough to go on the Bloke Country Tours a couple of months ago. We had a night on the Brewskis with the great Jarrell Yo-Yee, and we sort of said to him, mate, of all the Broncos, the young guys up there, who's the one to be the most excited about? And, mate, without hesitation, who did he say?
Brendan Piakura.
Yeah, and was very, very high on him. So Jarrell knows a thing or two about rugby league. So I'm very excited to watch him get a good opportunity this weekend.
It's going to be good. He's played, 2 games in the NRL, 1 game each last couple of seasons. Every chance that was around that bye period, and only got a couple of minutes in both games. So exciting. Yeah,
and I think that with the guys that Brisbane are losing next year, you got Palacia who's leaving, you got Flegler who's leaving. An opportunity could pop up there for him.
Definitely.
So, I'm very keen to watch him. He's the one that I'll be watching very closely. Anything else on that Broncos side? There's a lot of changes, but nothing overly jumping out to me.
Broncos, very little, mate, to be honest,
Rabbitohs taking on the Raiders. I've got Rabbitohs versus Broncos there, so that was good.
Close.
That was live YouTube. Flying. How good. Rabbitohs, it's easy to forget the Raiders that they exist. The city exists. It's just the old cockatoos. How good.
Almost competition leaders, Raiders. Give some respect, mate.
Never. For the Bunnies, speaking of the Raiders, the Bunnies, Jack White this time. Blake Taff at fullback. We've got Campbell Graham, who has been named. Is this one of the most bizarre situations of all time, or what?
So weird.
I
pulled from Blues camp due to not being able to have full preparation and injury concerns or whatever, and then he's going to play for the Bunnies this week.
Yeah, I don't know who to believe in this. It equally could be the Blues just being dysfunctional as per, or it equally could be South Sydney going, well, you didn't put Cook. Fuck you. We want our centre this week.
Yeah.
I don't know what to buy into here.
I have no idea. And I don't want to bloody throw pot shots at either the Bunnies or the Blues or anyone, because I'm like, I don't know.
Don't know.
Nothing makes
exactly
sense.
Right. Liam Knight in jersey 13. We'll see the first grade debut of Tallis Duncan, of course, named after the great Gordon Tallis. Tallis was playing for the Roosters a couple of years ago, coming through the junior grades, absolutely folding people left, right and centre, made the move over to Redfern. So congratulations to him. And just another name I want you to keep an eye on the extended bench, Tyrone Munro. It's the first time he has been named there. I think he could be like a genuine star of the future, Munro. Yeah. So one to keep an eye on there. For the Raiders.
Do you want to touch on another name in the extended bench, mate?
Who else is there?
Keon Kaloa-Matangi.
Oh, yes. I didn't put it in my notes.
Yeah, so one to keep an eye out for. Look, first game back from injury. I don't think I could. And he's I mean, he's a null, and if he does come back and has a good 2 or 3 weeks, he could be in that Origin frame quite quickly. So, especially if we get done.
If he does come in, though, great little anytime try scorer.
Yeah.
Punt that I'll be getting on there. For the Raiders, interesting. CHN on the edge, which we anticipated. Elliot Whitehead obviously out. Hudson Young gone to the Origin arena. Corey Horsburgh, big red. Named
The
on
red
the edge.
dog.
I didn't see this coming at all. What are your thoughts on it?
It wasn't that long ago, but I think no one outside of probably Raiders fans would remember this, but they actually trialled Big Red as an edge. I can't remember if it was the start of last season or the season before, and they wanted to see if he could become an 80-minute edge man and do that. And when they started doing it, it was just like, even before they did it, you just going, look at the size of the bloke. Like, he's a middle, out-and-out middle. So he'll be fine in terms of doing it for one game with obviously Whitehead out and Hudson Young out, but he's a middle for starters. Supercoach-wise, I don't think it's ideal. I think there's every chance that he plays 80 minutes, which is great news. Obviously, more chance to jag attacking stats, but like anyone who goes in edge and middle, the work rate's going to be down. So I don't love it for him, Supercoach-wise, but at the same time, he could probably picks up a few extra minutes, and if he can jag any sort of attacking stat, then, not the worst.
Yeah, I don't mind him on that edge for an offload as well.
Yeah.
Like getting him against some smaller bodies up there. I reckon he will be able to pull a few offloads, but I agree. I think he's going to need a couple. But, mate, did it surprise you? Like, he's been going so well at 13. You've won, 5 of your last 6 or 6 of your last 7, whatever it is. I'm not sure if it's a change I would have made. We've
just got so many middles and not a lot of we've got a lot of edges, but our 2 starting edge back rows are gone this week. So Corey Hawera comes in, obviously, but you're between Solo, Papali'i, Tapney could play edge, but you definitely don't want to get him out of the middle. Gula, Mariota, they're all middles. So something sort of had to give as far as 1 week goes. Like, who else would you have played on the edge?
Yeah, I just assumed you would have had someone else in reserve grade or something. But
well, I mean, the sort of Trey Mooney, he's not named anywhere, surprisingly. So whether don't know if he picked up an injury or something, but he's one who can play an edge. But yeah.
Now, we spoke about Joe Tapine moving back to 13. Hopefully that season pick up a few more minutes. But also, your bench is Starling and Nick Kotrick. So if you've still got Joe Tapine coming into this week, I really like that.
Yeah, bit of a weird bench.
Ricky's done this before, though.
He has. He has.
Like he was carrying James Schiller for a while last year.
Good news for Taps for sure. Had a few people asking if they thought he'd go 80. I don't think he'll go 80, but that 60 to 65 looks a lot more a lot safer, I should say. So yeah, good news.
And on Puru Watch, Jersey 18.
Puru Watch.
When he gets on, you're going to hear all about it, let me tell you. All right, let's move to Sunday afternoon footy. We got the 1997 grand final replay. The Newcastle Knights taking on the Manly Seagulls. For the Knights, KP moved back to the fullback jersey. Tyson Gamble responsibly comes into 6. Adam Elliott into jersey 13. Miller into the 14. If you're a Miller owner, unlucky for starters. I would be trading him, and if you don't trade him and you get to game day and a little fella by the name of Kurt Mann comes from the extended to jersey 14, you're going to be absolutely kicking yourself. I kind of hope it happens.
What an awkward situation. Firstly, I genuinely feel sorry for Miller owners because he doesn't deserve this. He's a victim of what in reality was a poor decision to put KP to 5'8" in the first place.
Yep.
And then owners who, just on top of it, he's actually had a few poor SuperCoach scoring weeks after killing it all season. So he's back to almost his starting value, but 20K off it. So it's a weird one because break even 87, I would suggest just hold and take whatever points you can get for you in round 13. But you're right. I think with Kurt Mann on the extended bench, he probably comes in and is the 14 and Miller drops out, in which case you've got Miller and then he's on the bye next week as well. Mm-hmm. You've got 613K there in this week that for a bloke you're going to trade anyway. So it's just so shit because let's say he does stay on the bench come game day. There's a HIA 5 minutes into the game and he comes in and you've got a gun available against a depleted Manly side playing fullback or 5'8" or wherever it might be. So, mate, I'm glad I'm not in the position, but I suppose if you can keep your trades flexible, and because he's worth so much, you might not be able to, but if you can wait until like 4 p.m. Saturday when the 24-hour cutoff comes and they cut players from the extended bench, so it'll be pre-Warriors-Broncos game. If there's still Kurt Mann on the extended bench, I'd be selling. But if he was to drop off, I'd probably just hold him and cop a price loss.
Yeah, and I mean, the other thing is that I feel so sorry for people that owned Lockie Miller. Is I think most of us said in the preseason, don't think he's the play. Don't think it's going to work out. And he was tremendous. Before KP came back full-time a few weeks ago, he was averaging 74.
Yeah.
So for you, Lockie Miller owners, fuck, I feel sorry for you.
Look, you've had a good run with him and he's scored really well for you and you certainly come out the better side, but in this all-important round 13, you don't get him. It's like, you Miller owners who, particularly the ones who started with him, not so much the ones who jumped on, but the ones who started with him, they deserved him this week.
100%. And I think if this happened in round 11, you'd be like, oh, okay, I can wear it. We had a good run.
This week.
But in round 13, stinger. Okay, for the Manly Seagulls, I hate this. I hate this. KO Weeks at fullback. Why isn't Ruben there?
I don't know. We saw the Weeks playing fullback a few weeks ago, and they just didn't look very good.
Yeah.
And Garrett's been so good at fullback. It's terrible for SuperCoach as well. He's owned by 80% plus of the top-ranked coaches, so it's not a major dagger. But I think the week 1 or 2 that Weeks did play fullback, Garrett didn't score very well at all on the wing. Garrick on the wing's a major when Tommy Turbo's there feeding him, but this week really was hoping that Garrick would be fullback. And with the bye next week, I think Garrick is probably not a buy this week all of a sudden.
Yeah, I think that's fair.
Yeah.
If he was playing fullback,
I'd probably buy him still.
Different combo.
Yeah.
Joshy Schuster at 6. 8 minutes to forget and 72 minutes to never forget last weekend. Incredible what he can. Incredible what he can't do at times, but then what he can do just blows you away, doesn't it?
Isn't he just one of the all-time great SuperCoach enigmas?
Oh.
He could score 8 for us. He could score 72 for us this week. He could score 172. Nothing would surprise me with him. He's in form. He's back in the team when it counts. Round 13, this is, one of the many reasons we bought him for, but if nothing else and he does come out to score 8, at least he's got some cash gen there.
Oh, mate. I genuinely, after 10 minutes, I was texting a mate and he said, do you reckon he'll get hooked here? I said, I reckon there's a chance he will. I genuinely do. And then he just exploded. He is such a rare talent. Yeah. It's incredible.
What do you reckon his base was last week?
About 9.
13.
Yeah.
13 in base.
That's
so
wild.
So here's the question, and I put it to the playbook panel last night. If you're a non-owner, do you buy him? Because we sat there and laughed when I don't want to answer this question because it'll be wrong.
I'd probably get out the Magic 8 ball and see what it says. I have no idea. I've got him. I'm stoked I got him, whatever. If I didn't have him, though, I think I'd be happy just to let it ride. It's a game that I'm not expecting Manly to win.
I think that's a big factor.
Yeah.
Because they're missing so many players and key forwards, Knights who all of a sudden have Saifidi and Ponga and Gagai in Newcastle, I expect Newey to probably do a bit of a job on them. So it's just really going to limit him. A lot of his points came off the back of him dishing to Turbo, who carved up and strolled through. So no comment on buy or no buy.
Yeah, and you also, as you said, a lot of it came, giving the ball to Turbo, who's not there. But just so much of Manly's structure comes from DC and Gerbo, who are also not there. So, and I know there's the argument DC is not there, so Schuster will get all the ball in the world. But if it's not good ball,
it doesn't matter.
What does it matter? So I wouldn't be buying him. I'm happy to play him this week. I'm happy to play Phoenix Crosslands. I'm going to be stoked to play Josh Schuster. Yeah. John's at 7. Kepi at 13. But the one we want to talk about is Samuela Fainu. I looked at, he was available in my draft comp last night. I had a quick look at him. Didn't really think too much of it. We had a look at his New South Wales Cup stats this morning. He's played 80 minutes there in just about every single game this season. And looking at the numbers, would have scored between 40 and about 55. So I've actually made the decision. It sucks he's only front row forward, but I'd like to think that he'd get 2RF in round 18, which could be very handy to have.
Does suck that he's only front row forward, but I'm very glad it's front row forward and not 2RF, because
Fair.
front row forward is the problem position. So when he got named, I was sort of thinking probably going to Bullymore on the edge, but we've got Burbo out long term, Gerbo out long term, Kelma Talangi out for
Another 4 weeks. Yep.
yeah. So the spot is there. He obviously hasn't won it on merit because he's played 2 games of limited minutes this season, but he's been given the nod there. You've got Bullymore and Condon who could come on the edge, but the fact that he is literally bottom dollar, playing his 3rd game, so price rise is incoming. Looks pretty good play to me.
Yeah, and just add another layer to it. You obviously saw what Josh Schuster was capable of doing last week. If he's able to have a few good weeks, he'll be on that edge with him. They're good mates. They're under the same management, so he's a buy for me.
I think so. And look, I shouldn't say worst case scenario, but let's say the minutes aren't great, and let's say he plays 50 or 60 this week, which you'd hope he would as a starting back rower. Get some half decent points this week. Hopefully, Jack some sort of attacking stats, and plays 1 or 2 more games there. Gets his duel later on. Doesn't really make a lot of cash for you. Drops off the scene. He becomes the duel. Hopefully, front row forward, second row forward enough. He frees up cash for you. Scores okay this week. I think that's probably worst case scenario. Actually, I'll tell you what worst case scenario is. Being the Sunday afternoon game, he gets benched.
Yeah.
Yeah, that's... And the one thing is, Siebes has been really good this season with naming his team and sticking to it.
Yeah.
He hasn't been really changing come game day, which is encouraging. But that's probably the concern.
If he gets benched, geez, I'd be tempted to go to Adam Elliott straight away.
Adam Elliott, I'll tell you the other one, Ethan Bullymore.
Yeah.
443k. If he gets benched, probably for Bullymore. Could be Condon, but probably Bullymore.
Because both those teams had the bye the week after, don't they? Newcastle and Manly. Yeah.
Bullymore, 443k, break even of 5, 84 points last week in 59 minutes. He had 58 in base in that time. Week before, 47 points with 47 in base, 53 minutes. So that's an option too. That being said, if you've made your trades and Finu was one of them, he's freed up your cash for you out of the trade. So you'd have to have a good 240k spare to do it.
Just a little something too from NRL Physio. Ryan Madison expected to miss 4 weeks after suffering a calf injury in round 12. So
Sell.
month. Yep, sell. Yeah, I'll tell you what, it'll be very interesting come Sunday. If worst case scenario happens all round, it'll be wild because people have no choice but just sit and watch.
Yeah.
Whether it be Miller, whether it be Finu, whoever the hell it might be.
The game with uncertainty around it is, I mean, a few of them do, but is the last of the round. So,
Yeah,
but regardless, I think I like Finu.
Yeah, I'm going to get him this week. Yeah,
and look, if you replace as Mo Ali or Pele, does much change? No.
Yeah, exactly right. You're not in a worse spot, I don't think. In fact, I'll be shocked if you're in a worse spot.
Yeah,
you have to be in a better, surely. All right, now, mate, before we do get into your deep dive, I obviously you have put a landslide of points on me in the last few weeks, and I've got desperate. I'm making a big move this week. I'm going to captain my 5'8". Who do you reckon?
Dill Bags, that wouldn't be a surprise, so that couldn't be a big play, I don't think.
Benching Dill Bags. It is not Dylan Brown.
Paying up for Cody?
I am not paying up for Cody. I traded him in draft this week and I'm not buying him. This week, I'm making a big play to try and catch you.
Yuck, I know what you're doing.
Yeah. I'm going to buy the great Kalen Ponga and I'm going to skipper him. I know he's got the bye next week. I'm well aware of it. I'm making a play this week. I'm going all chips in.
What could go wrong?
Everything. What could go right? Little, but I'm hoping for it.
I like it as a 1 week play.
Yeah.
I think following the Origin snub, he gets a depleted Manly side in Newcastle. I think he's back at fullback, which to me, I know he's had a lot of concussions there, but I think it alleviates a lot of the concussion risk.
I'm just going to add a quick asterisk to it. If he's goal kicking, I'm bringing KP in and captaining him. So we need to find that out, which I'm hoping we'll be able to over the next few days.
Yep.
If he's not goal kicking, I probably won't do it. But if he's goal kicking, I am 100%.
You still bring him in though?
Yeah. I don't know. I'll see.
Yeah.
if I'm bringing him in because it's a 1 week thing, I'm captaining him. I'm going all fucking in, but he needs to be goal kicking. So hopefully we'll be able to find that out.
And what makes it so savage is that he has to be the last game of the round, so you can't get the free VC crack at him.
Yep. Oh. It also means that I miss out on Dill Brown as a VC. And wouldn't it just be poetic that he kind of ruined your season last year? And he's going to make or break mine.
Yeah.
I love that.
I think he goes ham. I really do. You know, if he gets concussed, that's a risk you're taking, and there's nothing that's certainly out of our control in terms of predictions. But if he plays and gets through 80, I think he goes nuts.
Yeah. So we'll have to wrap up the show because I've got to drive to Newcastle and watch who's goal kicking at training this week. All right. Timmy's deep dive, getting rid of dead wood. I've been trying to get rid of my dead wood on this podcast for quite some time, but I just can't get rid of you.
Every time
you like that rash I've never been able to get rid of.
Every time you try to do it, you remember that I'm carrying you and you can't do it.
Whose name's on that? Go. Stat stove.
So the deep dive is, again, not a long one, but sort of like looking at my side, and I said at the start of the year, and I said that every single year I start slow and start making moves and sort of make the moves, and particularly when we get towards the buy period, but even before then, and up to 3,000 now. And I thought I often drop the line of saying I play the long game. Now, a big part of playing the long game is getting rid of deadwood in your team and building a squad of 25 strong players, rather than the short game is eking every bit of money you can out of trades and getting 17 guns in your team, which is great and it works short term, but long term, when we talk about cash generation and building squad value, which we do often, and I've spoken about that before in the deep dive, but it's having good players to plug in during the origin period, during the buy period. So what I'm getting at is, in the long way around, when I make my trades, if I need to spend an extra 100K, or should I say an extra 100K that I could make on a trade, I will cut that if it means I can hold a stronger player in my squad. So an example this week would be, let's say you've got Max King and Stefano Udakamanu. Let's even scrap Stefano, the fact he scored try and got 80 on the weekend. If you're still plodding away at 400K. Now, there's about 100K difference in Max King and Stefano. Who do you want in your team long term? Max King by a country mile, rather than Stefano, as good as he was last week. So there, unless it was really going to make or break my trades and allow me to get in an out-and-out gun because I really need that 100K, I'd cop a bit of a loss and I'd get rid of Stefano to be able to hold on to Max King, even if it meant not having that extra 100K to play with, just because we get to next week or the week after and all of a sudden I've got Max King as a play there instead of Stefano Udakamanu. It might be around 24 and I've got Max King instead of Stefano, who's a bloke I can confidently play in my side, and 100K at the time, but I can lock Max King in for, say, 55 to 60 points. Stefano, he could get you anywhere from 30 to 50 to, yeah. And that's tied into CT dubs. 2 weeks ago, I've now actually sold Taruva and Alamotti, but I had that decision with that exact circumstance with Taruva and Alamotti. And I could have made a slightly better trade by getting rid of Taruva and holding Alamotti, but I went, no, I don't want Alamotti in my side. Taruva, I thought at the time, this is a bloke who I'm pretty happy to plug and play when needed and more of a long-term prospect. So I cost myself a slightly better trade and got rid of Alamotti and held on to Taruva. So basically, when you just put yourself in that situation, it's not always about the money and that slightly bit of extra cash. That all makes sense?
It did make sense. We just had a very cute dog walk past the studio that distracted us. That was very good, Timmy.
Did you catch any of
the first half? Yeah. That was good.
Yeah. Normally you've got some good follow-up questions to my deep dive, but I can't imagine after that little pup walked past that, yeah.
No, very cute pup. All right, let's get stuck into our stats deep dive for this week. First guy you're going to talk about is a guy that's been snubbed from the Origin Arena. Pick and stick my arse, Queensland. Dane Gagai. They're kidding themselves, aren't they? Yeah. Pick and flick. Please. Tell us about Gags.
Dane Gagai. Talk about flying under the radar this season. He's 712K. Why, you might ask? He's averaging 71 points. You know the best thing about it? Have you looked into him? Is this news to you?
Someone mentioned, I think I played him in draft 2 weeks ago and someone mentioned him and I went, what? And then I had a quick look at it, but hit me with numbers.
He's basing 40. at centre, which is astronomical. Do you know how many tries he scored this season?
No, how many?
2.
2, yeah. He's breaking a stack of tackles though, isn't he?
Yeah. And like, obviously the work rate's there, busting tackles, decent amount of try assists, but so look, for a bloke
Not like his team's going insane too.
Team's not going insane. He's so 712K. I'm not paying up for him. I'm really happy with where my CTWs this week. I don't really need him, and like he's done it for 2 or 3 seasons now where he's been really good. I mean, as far as pod plays go, he's owned by like 1 or 2% or something.
And he's just got to kick up the arse too.
Yeah. Yeah, so point to prove, to play to Manly. Oh.
If you've had him for a while now, you'd be absolutely stoked. Obviously, another guy comes into a bye next week and whatnot, but scary. Connolly Lemuelu, one of my favourite players this season. I haven't owned him in Classic, got him in draft. I just love watching this guy play. What do you got for me?
So last week when Leilua was cleared, I put the Sharpie through Lukey and I needed to find another buy. And I could have got it at...
should have put the Sharpie through him on Wednesday.
Should have. Had... Looking at players generally through 2RF or CT Dub, and I fell on Connelly Lemuelu, who I did end up bringing in, scored 50 points. I was like, not the best, but solid enough. A month ago on the podcast, when he sort of became probably more relevant for the first time, having locked in the 80-minute role, I was a bit sceptical of his base stats and just his runs per game. I didn't want him to be the Jeremiah Nanai type, having 7 or 8 runs a game. He was doing a bit more than that, but not a lot. In 3 of his last 4 games, he's really up that, and he's based 50 points in 3 of his last 4 games. So adding that to, I know this is last week now, but he had a negative break-even last week, so went up 54K, which is balanced out now, flatlined. That with his attacking upside, runs one of the best lines in the game. I end up bringing him in, and I think he remains a good buy this week.
Yeah, no, I think that's a fair shout. And yeah, you're right. He has upped that base. Not a stack, realistically, but he's upped at that 7-8 points a week, which makes a big difference.
It's a fair bit.
Yeah, it's a good whack. So, and I think there was rumours a couple of weeks ago that he might make the move out to centre. I just can't see it. I think he's been too good there. I think with Tafade there, I think they've just got enough depth in the centres. I think they like K-Brom through the middle as well. I can't see him moving out of that spot. So I think he would have... Geez, I remember when we were in Cairns, what was that, round 4? We had a conversation about him. We sort of said next week's probably the week to get him. Neither of us did. If you got him then, fuck, he's done good for you.
Well, yeah, I was at the time still a hardcore Dolphins denier, but at some point you have to...
Were you?
Yeah, I think so. Was it Dolphins or was it Tigers? I don't know. But yeah, so just because of that, I was so blinded by Dolphins can't keep this up. So I was so hesitant and reluctant to invest in any of their players. I'm just like, Lemuelu, star. But yeah, so anyone who jumped on early, they'd be licking their lips.
Yeah, I agree with you. I still don't think it's a bad trade this week at all. I think it's a good one. Tohu Harris, who you're very, very excited about?
I am. Yep. So injury history, injury risk is obviously always the concern with him. He does look sometimes like he's playing on one leg, but still plays really well on one leg. So get this. In 5 games this season that haven't been injury affected, there was a 62-minute game that, I don't know if there was any injury impact on that, but it was his first game back in 3 or 4 games from an injury. So I have excluded that for the record. But in his 5 standalone games where he hasn't been injury affected, he has averaged 68.2 in base, which is enormous.
Yeah.
You add in the fact that his ball playing has gone to a new level this year. His little combination there with the tip on at the line to Fanua Blake, which has seen Fanua Blake score a few tries. Dual position, 2R front row forward, break even 17. He's at a very affordable rate, I think tick over 600K. The fact that he's and I speak about him in such a different light this year to last year because in previous years, he was only available at 2RF, and I'm like, there are so many gun and high outside 2RFs he's competing against. At front row forward, I'm like, he just looks the go.
Yeah, and, obviously the beauty of Tohu Harris as well, he's a Kiwi, so he's not going to be missing out during Origin and whatnot. They've got a buy in round 16, but you'll still get 3 solid games out of him.
And of all the 3 major buy-ins, round 16, not the most daunting, so...
Yeah, no, I like the move, Tohu Harris. Jack Bird, missed last week, didn't he?
He did. It was a laid out.
Back in this week?
I think they might have had a 5-day turnaround or a pretty short turnaround, and they rest him with a niggle of some sort. Now, on Bird, I just want to make the point because I do, and like yourself as well, but I go pretty hard on going to CT dubs and even probably to a lesser degree 2RFs with high ceilings. And I'm a firm believer in chasing the high ceiling, but it's not all about high ceilings because Jack Bird this season has one score under 50. He's got a high score of 80. He's averaging about 61. So, look, especially when we're talking about buy coverage, you can put in a guy who might average 65 to 70, largely in base stats because they're a big work rate, 2RF sort of thing, or it might even be centre. So, look, I'm not keen on Bird, but one score under 50 all season, dual 2RF CT dub. You throw in Lemuelu, Tyrone Peachy, anyone who did jump on Ben Trebojevic last week, or these dual positions, pretty solid.
They're very solid. It's hard to argue with Jack Bird.
Yeah.
My gut says no.
Yeah.
But the numbers are the numbers.
Numbers for a really good sample size now.
Yeah, for sure. The next guy, Olakau'atu. Do we want to skip this? I don't know if there's much point talking about my number one pod play that I don't want anyone else to buy.
This is where I'm really keen to get your thoughts, and that's why I threw him in, because last week we spoke about Olakau'atu and he's been a SuperCoach 2RF gun of the past. This year he'd been okay, but I spoke to you about it, and I don't know if it was you playing one of your shit little games, but you were saying how you were, I can't remember if this was before or after Origin selections, but you were looking, it would have been on Monday.
It was before.
And you were saying you were looking at selling him. And I thought, with potential round 13 looming, and I didn't sort of think too much about it, but thought, maybe premature. And obviously having missed Origin selection, named play this week, I thought, well, where does he sit as a pod play? And his numbers are pretty good. He's only averaging 60 and there's been 5 tries, but basing 42, not the best. Base has never been his best, but because he's a tackle buster and an offloader, it's sort of that power base lifts quite substantially. So prior to last week's score, he had a season low of 34 points. He hadn't scored... last week's season low was 34 points. Prior to that, he hadn't scored below 51. So he hadn't had the high ceilings that we've sort of seen in the past with him where he can crack tons, but pretty consistent scoring.
Yeah, I will just point out that, you have a look at the average. 6-point average was all good and well. In the first 4 weeks, he scored 4 tries, right? And he didn't go above 75 in any of those games. There was a game where he scored 2 tries and he got 60. I just don't think he's quite the guy that he was. Last few weeks have been solid, don't get me wrong. 80, 66, 66, 54. Got a 34 last week. My big worry, and part of, I don't know if I got to talking about this with you, but my big worry is that during the Origin period, DCE won't be there.
That doesn't help.
That's my big concern with him. And last week, he just looked to be an absolute shell of himself to me. And that was 80 minutes, 26 base starts, and that was him playing for an Origin jersey. I think he's carrying an injury. I don't think he's all sweet. I'm obviously going to hold him for this week.
Yeah.
And he's a great pod to have and everything. But if he puts out 40 points, I will not be shocked in the slightest this week.
Yeah. And that's all fair. I will say on the rounds 3, 4, 5, he scored 4 tries in 3 games, 1 line break. So without completely saying what I've said the last few weeks on it, tries off kicks.
Yep.
So you're not getting the line break, you're not getting the tackle bust, you're not even getting the run. Basically, it's cut in half. So scoring tries, but off kicks, which is a big difference.
Which is more so to my point, he's not the guy he was last year.
Also there, yeah.
Yeah, so that's been my concern. I'm more than happy to have him this week.
Yeah.
And people think I'm trying to throw him off the scent. I'm not. I wouldn't. There's not a hope in hell I'd be buying him this week.
Yeah.
No way. Especially with a buy next week.
The buy next week's the dagger.
Even if he didn't have the buy next week, I wouldn't be buying him.
And
he doesn't look himself.
And while we talk about, maybe wanting to buy Fino this week, the difference is you don't want to play Fino anywhere as Ola. You're bringing in as a gun to RF, and then you're missing a gun next week. So it's a big difference.
Exactly. I'm very, very confident I'll be selling him next week, Olakau'atu.
I'm so excited for this next one.
Yeah, I made a trade this week in draft, and I got this fella in, and he was sort of the last selection of it, which no one spoke about, but I'm a little bit excited about him because I'll just throw straight to you. You can get stuck into it. Tony Staggs, hit us.
I can't believe we're here again.
Welcome home, Daddy.
Tony Staggs this week is 398k. Like, what would you say a cheapie's sub 350, maybe sub 330? Yeah. Katoni Staggs is almost a cheapie. I'm like, his numbers are so perplexing, and I had a really good dive into them yesterday because I was just like, this shit just doesn't add up. He's averaged 46 this season, despite scoring 7 tries, but he's basing 29, which is pretty good for a centre. Like, that's pretty solid stats. So, put it this way, 29 in base, if you had a try off a kick to that, 17 points, there's your 46. There's his season average. He scored 7 tries. So I'm like, what's different? So I went through it. He's had 2 line breaks and 1 line break assist this season. Yeah. So much like Ola, lots of tries off kicks. So Staggs is famous in SuperCoach for...
Off kicks or intercepts as well? He's taking a few intercepts, yeah.
Staggs is famous in SuperCoach for low work rate. He might have 7-8 runs a game, but one of those runs, he will bust through 4 blokes, line break, try, and it'll be like a 35, 40-point play.
Yep.
He hasn't been doing that. It's just been tries off, kicks or intercepts. So the reality is he's playing in a red-hot Broncos team. He is as cheap as you'll probably ever get. He's actually having a crack in terms of runs per game. Yeah.
As you said,
am I sick?
His base stat average this year has been 29. The last 4 weeks, his base stats have been 40, 29, 29, 33. So his average for the season has been his lowest in the last month for base stats. I don't know how he's not scoring more points with how talented this guy is. But
I don't know either.
The only other thing that I would say about Katoni is that in the next 7 games, he does have 2 buys.
He does, but... So he plays the round 16 and round end buys, so buy coverage isn't great. But look, he's not a bloke that I would be bringing in to play in my team.
Yep.
I'd be bringing him in going, he strings 2 of those ton games together, which I remember last year I owned him and he turned up against Penrith and the Roosters, both away from home, I believe.
And he looked like a reserve grader the 4 weeks before that.
Yeah. So I'm like, I would buy him as a key number this week. It'd free up cash for trades elsewhere. And then from there, I wouldn't play him in my team.
Plays the Warriors this week. Sharks a points bet, which you wouldn't play him for. Then he's got Newcastle at Suncorp into a bye into the Gold Coast at Suncorp as well. I wouldn't be surprised if those are the 2 games that he is able to...
Into the Dolphins, bye, into the Bulldogs. So that's... I'm like... I'm not buying him to play him. Obviously, play him around 13. I'd be buying him as essentially a cash grab. Not a quick cash grab, but a bloke that I can see being 550k with a couple of big games under his belt. Yeah. Who, if I had to play him, wouldn't be happy about it, but, I mean, he's not a dud CT dub, I don't think.
At the moment, he's not. Not at all. Last 2 weeks without a try, 47-41, if you had to wear that.
Yeah.
I mean, and that's against Melbourne Storm and Penrith.
Recent years averages 49 in 2022. Okay. 2021, 62. 2020, 59. And he had injuries in those years as well, which limited minutes a bit. So it doesn't seem mad.
Over the next 8 weeks, I would be happy to play him in the Warriors, Newcastle, Gold Coast, Bulldogs, potentially the Dolphins game as well.
Hopefully be getting him to 5 to 550k by end of the bye period, and then you flip him after the Dogs game. Not saying I'm doing it.
It's not for me, but I don't
think I'll do it either, but there's merit.
There's heaps worse moves to make, and they rhyme with Shirel Sloan. All right, let's get into sit v start this week, mate. I mean, it's a bit of a weird one this week, isn't it?
There's no sit v start, is there?
You're just playing everyone you possibly can.
Last week's pod plan, and to be fair, it didn't actually cross my mind until just then, but you play everyone you've got.
Now, I'm going to ask you a question that could give Panadol a headache. The loophole this week.
Why'd you bring it up?
I couldn't bring it up.
You chat it. Don't even ask me. You just chat it.
Well, my question is that obviously this week you pick your 17, including 4 reserves, your best 13 count. So if you have 17 players, regardless of whether they are your fullback or your reserve, the best scorers will count for you. My question is that if you have 15 players, for example, and I VC Dill Brown, he kills it. He won't because Kalen Ponga's going to score 200. But if Dill Brown was to kill it at VC and I was to captain a non-playing player, does the non-playing player count as one of my 13? The obvious answer is no. But from what I know of SuperCoach, it's never obvious and it's never that easy. And I find it weird that no one's come out and told us exactly what it is yet. I think it's a question that people have been asking for a few weeks now. How's it going to work? I think that SuperCoach aren't sure themselves how it's going to work out. And I think we're just going to find out when it happens.
So I suppose firstly, if you do get the VC loop and you want to use it, you would still have to drop a player to outside your 17 for them to come in as the AE.
No, you would have to drop them to your reserves, depending on how many players you've got.
Outside your 17.
What? No, you drop them to your reserves. Because the player you're going to captain has to come into your starting team, obviously. So whoever the player is that you're dropping out of your team, if they were going to score points, they'd go to your reserves.
Yeah. I said, I did want you to ask me. I said,
no, I know you did. That's why I did.
To define, never a great example of would give Panadol a headache.
Yes, 100%.
It screws with my head.
I think as well, we're making it out sound like it's going to be a train wreck. Realistically, if worst case scenario happens, you might get a 0 instead of your lowest scorer, which could be an Isaiah Cartella stepping up with a 6. So I reckon at max it might cost you an absolute 20 points. But just keep it in mind when you are doing your VC loophole that it could cost you your lowest scorer potentially. It might not. If SuperCoach gets it all right, it might not.
I think it's a mountains out of molehill situation. I think it'll be fine, but it's an interesting one to flag.
It interests me so much.
They'll sort it out before Thursday night.
I hope you're right, but good God. It feels like a very... I just feel like it would be so SuperCoachy for everyone to do really well, and it turns out costing you 40 points maybe. It'd be so interesting. We'll see how it plays out.
It's a bad couple of days to be Sanks's inbox.
Awful couple of days. Awful couple of days. Which I just think is why you should captain KP. You don't have to deal with these sort of things. All right. Let's get into our questions for this week. First one comes from James Footy, a big fan of the show. Holmes to Isako, a good move when I already have 16 players. I think the answer to that question is at the end of the question. What are your thoughts?
Yeah, so your top 13 scoring players play for you this week. So you've got 16 cruising. You don't need any more. Like, if you've got 16 active players this week, then look, maybe James is a head-to-head player because to have 16, not necessarily. Regardless, for the next 2 buy rounds, you must be pretty well shot, certainly for round 16, because 16 players is way too many. It's funny because I do think Holmes to Osaka is a great trade. But, mate, if you got 16 active players this week, I'd be sitting on my hands and saving trades. You don't need to do anything, really.
Don't need to do it this week.
Nah. As a standalone Holmes to Osaka trade, though, yeah, rate it.
Yeah. Yeah, interesting one. All right, this one from Sam Nylon. What to do with Milo? Sort of already touched on this. We think he's a sell, right?
Yeah, I think he's probably a sell. I'd be, if you can wait until, as I said, 4 o'clock on Saturday to see what happens with Kurt Mann, because if Mann were to be scratched there, I'd be like, oh, well, he's probably playing off the bench and he may be something, but yeah, that's pretty late for a bloke who's 600k. He'll probably need to fund other trades, so he'd probably just sell.
From Lachlan Mitchell, love your work, Guru, and Phoenix Crossland. Would you entertain DWZ? Not for me.
Oh,
have a quick look.
What I would give to see, firstly...
Dallon's not an awful SuperCoach player, to be fair. He gets through a lot of work and everything, but he's just not in that top tier for me, and I can't trust that he's going to score enough at attacking upside.
He's... Put it this way. His last 4-year averages have been 42, 53, 40, 36. He's never been... And like time in that would have been spent at fullback. He's never been SuperCoach relevant. I think the Warriors matchup this week against the Broncos is excellent. The Broncos are missing a heap. Warriors are full strength. It's in New Zealand. They're fresh off the bye. I think the Warriors do a number on them. Not a number, but I think they win well enough, and I think their players will score well. Dallin could score well, but after this week, I'm just like, he doesn't excite me.
Yeah. This one from Brandon Jones. Olakau'atu over Tohu Harris as a pod. I'm an Olakau'atu owner. I'm saying no. I definitely think Tohu Harris is the better play here. He doesn't have a bye next week too.
Yeah, I like Tohu. Doesn't have the bye next week, and just the dual front row 2RF. Front row, gold.
And another thing to take into consideration, he will probably score more points than Olakau'atu.
Something we need to consider more often when making trades.
I think it's an underrated factor. From Max Hutton. Oh, here we go. Here's our random question of the week. Sauce in the cupboard or the fridge? I grew up as a cupboard guy, but I think Becca's lured me to the sauce side without me realising. I didn't even think about it until this question. I thought, fuck, I've had sauce in the fridge for a few years. But I definitely used to be a cupboard guy. Where do you sit?
I've always been a cupboard guy.
I knew you. I felt like country guys would always be cupboard guys.
I've got a really good...
That's why I'm a city boy with country values.
I've got a really good answer to this as well. So I nearly sent my house into meltdown one day because they were like... I think I had the mayo in the cupboard.
That's got to be in the fridge.
Yeah, and that was the response, and I was just like, it's always been in the cupboard. Mate, I'm from Cooma. Like, outside is a freezer. So because the climate is so much colder, things like particularly sauce and like mayo is always in the cupboard. It's so cold down there that we don't get the hot weather like it is up here. So I've always put stuff in the cupboard.
I've got family friends, and I won't name and shame them because it's probably not fair. But they, whenever they order pizza, so they order a few pizzas for the family, before they put them out, they put them on the kitchen table and they put mayonnaise over each and every one of them, whether they've got guests over, anything, and it has always rattled me to my core. Really shook me, but mayo in the cupboard's fucking...
For the record, like in Sydney climate, I get the mayo in fridge is more of a play.
You're a tomato or barbecue guy?
I'm a dual position there, mate. But
like at the same time?
No. I love them both, but look, if I'm making a decision, I'm tomato.
Just rank. Doesn't shock me. But. Next one, Riley Hodgson, is there a world where we go KP? For me, there is. How would you respond to other people wanting to get KP?
No, I don't love it. I think it's a great play this week. I just think with round 14 bye, I think there's every chance he plays. If he gets through the next 3 weeks, he plays Origin 2. I get that if the Maroons win, they probably don't change anything, but imagine trying to keep KP if he kills it the next few weeks, which I do think he will, out of Origin. So that, add in concussion concern. The Knights also have a tough draw. They play... So the game this week is fine. As I said, I genuinely think he goes 100 plus this week. But thinking longer term, then bye, then the Broncos at Suncorp, and then the Roosters in round 16. That's the buy-in where the Roosters aren't actually missing that many of their contingent to Origin. And then they play Panthers round 17. So I just don't think the matchups are great either.
Yeah.
So it's a no from me, but I can see why people do it. I don't hate the move.
Now, next one I thought was a bit of a giggle, and does this question mean anything to you? Was that you, Guru, handing out Ben Condon's jersey last week? Does that mean anything to you? Have you seen it?
No.
So whilst Timmy's watching it, do you remember Manly Seagulls 08 or 11? I want to say 11 on the bench for them in the grand final, Vic Morrow?
Vic Morrow.
Remember him?
Yeah.
Have a look at him handing out the jersey.
Holy dooly.
Fucking dead ringer.
Yeah.
Dead ringer.
That is great. The great Vic Morrow.
Go and have a look at the Manly Seagulls Instagram. It even sounds like me, I reckon.
That's
Go and have a look. Dead ringer. Got tagged in at a stack this week. Wild. Now, the last few questions, Damien Cook worth bringing in. That's probably the most important one that we haven't really touched on yet. We sat here today. I walked in here trading in Damien Cook. I think you have too. I'm not sure if you still are. But for me, this question, trading in Damien Cook, I don't think it's a bad trade-in, but for me, it's almost got more to do with Harry Grant. You could trade Sonny Luke as well, which I'm all for. It's been a pain in the ass. I think he's going to play more minutes over the next few weeks. Whether that means he scores well, once again, I have got not the slightest clue whatsoever. And I can understand if people want to jump off Sonny Luke, that's completely fine. Harry Grant, though, obviously, I mean, people say there's a lot of money there. There isn't really. He's not doing that fucking well. But I also question, how much time do you think Harry Grant's actually going to miss over the next few weeks? Can Melbourne afford to... They don't have Cheese there anymore. It's Bronson Garlick that'll probably be the hooker. He's not playing 80 minutes in Origin. I'm kind of thinking I might hold Grant. What do you reckon?
Yep. So, first and foremost, I am relatively keen to hold Grant, and I'm keen on also getting Damien Cook. So Melbourne's Origin contingent have the best draw possible because they've got buys in round 13 and 19, which are two of the Origin weeks where he'd be missing anyway. So he won't, barring rest, he doesn't miss anything out of 13, 16, 19. The Storm play on Sunday after Origin 1 against the Cowboys. You mentioned that they probably don't have a lot of hooking depth there, where he has rested and played reduced minutes at times. In previous years, they've obviously had Brandon Smith there, who could slot in at number 9. Melbourne are going okay, but they're not in the luxurious top 2 position or flying where they can really afford to rest players. So then we sort of had a bit of a look pre-show at minutes that he played in Origin last season. So game 1, he played 43 minutes. Benny Hunt played 37. Game 2, Grant played 48, Benny Hunt played 68, and Game 3, Grant played 43 and Hunt played 37. So if that share is anywhere, let's say if we could expect him playing anywhere from 40 to 50, would that be fair?
I think so.
He's playing off the bench, so definitely.
Yeah.
Playing 40 to 50 minutes and then gets the max turnaround from Origin. I think there's every chance he will play 14, 15, barring obviously knocks and bruises and cuts from Origin, but I think he's a decent enough chance to back up. As you said, he's at 655k, so he's a bit of value there, but nothing ridiculous. So there's no one really knocking the door down for buys. I'm thinking Sonny Luke, that you mentioned he's sort of played big minutes in New South Wales Cup last week, that Kenny will probably spend more time at lock over the Origin period to give Isaiah Yeo a bit of a spell and Luke gets more minutes. Luke is just not really doing a lot there at the moment for anyone. And
I've been a big Sonny Luke guy, as you all know, but I mean, the reality is he's played 2 games this year where he played 46 minutes and 53. I mean, he got 23 base stats in both of them. So, yeah.
So if he does become a big minute hooker leading into when Penrith play, round 16, I might try to get him in then if he becomes a must-have, but in a position where you've only got your starter and a reserve, if your starter goes down or unavailable through Origin, whether that's be holding Harry or whoever, it becomes a concern. So I want to try to solidify that position. So Damien Cook, to me, he looks the goods. So very affordable at the moment. What is he, around about 600, not even, about 580k. He's averaging 61 this season. He's only scored under 55 once. Basing 47 per game, which is really solid. Attacking stats have been right down. 4 try assists. That's solid enough. 1 try and 1 line break. Now, this ties into, look at their star back line. Give good service to Cody, Trell, all that. I understand that. But I don't think the attacking stats are going to get any less. Trell out for Origin. Every chance he gets rest over the Origin period at stages because of how well the Bunnies are going. So does he take the line on and run a little bit more? He'll also be pissed off about missing Origin, so I think he fires up this week. Add on to that the Bunnies draw, which is outstanding. So Cookie's 582k. He's a great price. Raiders this week, then plays Titans and Dragons. Bye. Cowboys, Warriors, Bulldogs will be round 19 if he's available for that. So, one concern is if the Blues lose, he could easily be in the Origin arena for that round 19, but it's that 6 weeks away or something. I'm happy to get him before then. And to be honest, if I stuck with Cook and went Cook and Harry, I'd probably just hold on to that for the run home.
Yeah, I think with Cook as well, he's not going to play round 16 anyway, so if he does go into Origin in that time, it doesn't matter.
Yeah, 16's irrelevant.
It doesn't matter. So if you do lose him round 19, not ideal, but you can deal with it. I think as well, the other guy that I think you'll see for the South Sydney Rovers in the next 2 to 3 weeks is Havili. I think he's very close to coming back, but now that Cook hasn't been picked in the Origin arena, I think Havili plays a lot more middle 13 and gives Murray a spell. So
agree. Well, Cook's always been an 80-minute man for the Bunnies, even with Havili.
Yeah.
Give or take around Origin period where he might get a bit of a spell and give him a rest. But so, all right, he averaged his last 4 season averages 75 last year, 66, 70, 76.
Yeah.
So I think at the price, we know, not this season, but we know he's got not big tons in him, but we know he's got tons in him, attacking upside. I'm keen and I can't wait to own.
And I mean, when you say, he doesn't have big tons, no hooker does.
True.
It's not like he's missing out compared to other guys. Like people want to tell me it's Harry Grant. He doesn't. Caps out at 110, 120, and I don't think he's getting close to that at the moment.
Yeah, and on Harry Grant, we're probably more making the point that you don't have to sell him because so many are flipping him. I think he's fine to sell. He's very well made, play reduced minutes through Origin and get spells, and he's not scoring that well anyway. So he's fine to sell, but don't feel like you have to.
I think that this will be the reality of hooker moving forward in SuperCoach. I think it's time and the sun has dropped off a little bit just because there are so many job sharing and stats just don't seem to be up for any of them.
Yeah.
Realistically. Which is wild because a few years ago it was so fucking crucial to get it right. It was costing you a stack. So really interesting how the game changes like that. What other questions have we got? Thoughts on bringing in Metcalf this week? We spoke about Metcalf. Fino for Manly. We've covered him. Captains?
Thinking VC, Dylan Brown, which will be very popular. And I'm really hoping that I can lock that loop in, however that might play out. I would probably take 75 to 80. I think 80 I'd be comfortable with. 75 is probably that asking questions because I don't really have red hot captaincy options after that. I reckon I'd be nearly happy with that. And then my captain, if D-Bags fails, would probably be Damien Cook.
Yeah, as I said, if KP is goal kicking, which I think he will be, I'm going to captain him. So my VC options will have to be someone before that, which is every other game. I'm probably leaning towards Hopgood. And if he comes up with an attacking stat and gets 100 or so, I would probably take that.
What number would you need to loot?
I really think KP is going to put on a fucking
So do
score,
I, yeah.
So
you'd be thinking 100 odd?
Yeah. I'll tell you what, depending on how like if he outscores Dill Brown, I'll take Hopgoods. If he outscores him, and I probably then won't make the KP trade.
Yeah.
Because I can do that, can't I? Because he's last game. When do the Dolphins play? Do they play?
First.
Fuck.
There'll be options, mate.
There'll be options, yeah. The other option is that I could flip Phoenix Crossland to KP as well and play Katoa over Phoenix if I really wanted that captain.
True.
That might actually be what I'll do.
Try, mate. Just call me Thursday over, Friday over like you always do, and I'll tell you what trades to do.
Yes, without a doubt. All right. So, yeah, those are our captains. So your team, Dill Brown over Cody Walker?
Captains, yeah. I like the matchup a lot better. The Cowboys just conceded 66. They lose Ruben Cotter, Val Holmes. They get a couple come in, obviously. Well, Taumola, hopefully, Griffin Neame. But at Combank Stadium, it's got to be Dill Brown, doesn't it? Like the Raiders are missing, Hudson Young, Elliott Whitehead, pretty well full strength.
Griffin Neame's a name I haven't heard in a while.
Good to have him back. The knee man. Might buy him, actually, just for old time's sake.
Well, why not? You'd be silly not to. What about AJ as a VC captain? Big gamble, but...
Yeah, look, if I was going to go AJ, I'd just go Cody.
Fair.
Yeah.
Fuck it. I tell you, it'd be very interesting in AJ if Campbell Graham wasn't playing this week.
It would be, because the left side probably gets a little bit more ball.
Wild how that's played out. But anyway. All right, mate. Are we...
trades, mate, just to confirm them.
So at the moment, I am leaning towards Madison out for Fino. I'm leaning towards a halfback 5'8", so Isaiah Katoa or Phoenix, depending on how it all plays out for KP. And then at the moment, I'm looking at Val Holmes or Alex Johnson. I do not like bringing in Alex Johnson, but you're just getting too far away from me, and I've got to play a little bit of defense here. And I'm playing a guy in draft this weekend who consistently beats me, and I have no idea how, and he's got AJ in his team. So I just feel like AJ is going to fist me this week.
Instead of trying to match me, why don't you try and catch me?
Nope. No. I've got to match you on this one, because if he gets away, which... With typical mid-season form of Alex Johnson, very hard to wrangle in. But what we saw from South Sydney the other night was a little bit worrying for me. I know it's only one game, I get it, but I don't know how long you can stay at the peak that they were. Yeah. Hopefully they turn it around, but they're my trades. What are you thinking at the moment?
So
I'm not sure yet.
There's a lot you can do with 4 trades in a week, to be fair. I reckon I've locked in Cook, Harris, and Cody Walker coming in. Probably Fino out. Fino in as the 4th trade, as the cash grab. Going out of my team, I think I'll be selling Nico Hines, Christian Welch, Stefano Udakamanu, and Sonny Luke. And I don't think I'll waver from that too much, mate. It'll be pretty close.
Once I've made those 3 trades, I could use a boost because I've got $1 million sitting in my salary.
$1 million.
1,020,000.
You don't need to boost, mate. You've got 13 for the week and you're sweet. I wouldn't bother.
Yeah, I think I'll just sit.
Unless there's someone you're really like, I really want this bloke, but I don't think you need to.
And I kind of want to have a bit of bank there just so I can bring Cleary back.
Yeah, bank for that. Bank for Cleary the next week if you want him or whatever the plan is. But it gives you a war chest going into to have your numbers for 16 and 19.
So if you use 3, are you maybe using 4 trades this week?
I'm boosting to get 13.
Okay. How many trades you got left?
21.
Oh, really?
21 and a boost.
Okay. Good. Okay. I've got 22 and a boost.
Yeah.
That's good. That puts us in a pretty even.
Yeah, good. It's a good spot,
which is nice.
I'm happy with that amount of trades. So yeah.
Yeah.
And then as I keep saying, but the last boost we save for round. The plan is to save for round 20.
Have you thought long term yet about your trades and got a decent map of how it's going to look, or not just yet?
And I've got my trades plans for round 1 next year.
When do you want to have your team kind of set? Like
round 20 to 21.
Yeah, okay.
That's why I'm saving my boost, because once I get rid of the bye period fodder, I want to have that boost as soon as round 19/20 with the 3 buys is done to get my team to exactly where I want it as quick as I can.
Yeah, and then how many trades are you planning to have left for the last... Fuck, it goes to round 27 this year, for the last 5-6 weeks.
Mate, like a lot of things can change between now and then. But
like, ideally, where do you want to be? Between 2 and 5, between 3 and 6?
Yeah, look, if by round, say, 21, I've got my optimal 17, and this is where it goes back into my deep dive before, I don't want shit fodder on my bench. I want to have a squad of 25 good players to choose from and cover buys and all that. And by having that, I'll be able to be a bit more skimp on trades a little bit and be a bit lower. So I don't know what the exact number is, but by around 22 or something, if I've got 3 or 4, but I've got a really good 25, I'll be sweet.
If I had a betting market for when Tim Williams says for the first time, I'm thinking nuff, when do you reckon we'll be starting to talk about it?
Round 21 to 23.
Oh, that late?
Yeah.
Okay.
I'm not enough man, you know that.
Even to like free up cash to be able to get a Nico back and stuff?
Maybe round 20 or 21, I could do one nuff. If there's some 200k bloke and I can go, sweet, get my war chest of 600-700k. Let's say a 700k player, 800k player gets injured. I've got a deep squad and I can go, sweet, I'll go him to a 200k and just give myself a war chest. Maybe I'll do that. But it won't be before round... I won't go hard. I don't believe it'll be before the end of the bye period.
Yeah, okay. All right, fair enough. Because there are a couple of interesting guys like round 16, for example. If you were to try and nuff over the next 2 to 3 weeks, I'd be looking at Blake Wilson from Canterbury, who Josh Adokar won't be there round 16. Yeah. He probably plays round 16 then.
Yeah, and that's what's sort of a bit reluctant to put a number on it. But round 19's viable. If you get to round 19 and go, look, there's a player who's coming in who's playing and they've got a good matchup and they're bottom dollar or something, maybe then.
Yeah. All right, guys, that will do us for this week. Best of luck with your buy round. Hope it all goes well. Please keep in mind that Blue Wealth Property, they've got their seminars next week, 2 nights, the Tuesday night and the Thursday night. Wealth Through Property, the first one on the Tuesday night, which is the 30th of May. That'll be live out there at Sydney Olympic Park at one of the great offices of all time, just quietly. It is unreal. Or you can check it out via the webinar. We'll have the link in our description here on YouTube, or if you're listening on the podcast or on social media, whatever it might be, reach out to myself or Timmy. Will send you in the right direction. And then Thursday at the Hilton Hotel Sydney, Wealth Through Property. You could even spend a night at the Hilton, get stuck into a continental breakfast in the morning. Wouldn't be too bad.
I love buffets so much. Buffet brekkie.
Buffets still getting around, or did COVID sort of do a bit of damage?
No, buffets, they're a thing.
There's less around though, sure.
Less around, but they're enforced.
You find a good one. They got to bring back the Pizza Hut buffet. That was 3 plates of jelly to knock her over at the end. All right, guys, thanks for joining us. The SuperCoach Playbook podcast last night dropped a little bit later than anticipated.
Yeah, so Matty the Waterboy, being the dog that he is, decided to go and do some stuff for Kempy. I think they had to interview some Lockyer Darren fella up in Queensland, so he prioritised that over me, which that's all right. Hope
Kempy wasn't trying to keep that a secret.
Yeah, exactly. So
you might be in some curry there. I hope so.
We'll find out and cut it out straight away.
I'm not cutting that out. No way. I want to get you fired.
Yeah, wouldn't be hard.
Hope so.
So it was just a little bit later last night. But we did have a head-to-head specialist on the panel last night to talk, because we're also overall based, around head-to-head buy planning. So if head-to-head focus players out there that get sick of our overall buy planning chat, it's so different, the head-to-head planning. And I was sitting there going, like, awesome. Players, like, he's selling Clint Gutherson this week, for example, because he's like, I don't need him this week. He's got the buy next week. He's about to leak cash. That's where head-to-head and overall is so different.
Max Powell, Max Bryden.
Yeah.
How good. Love that. All right, guys, make sure you go out, grab yourself a case of Bloke in a Bar this week. You got the mid-strength and the full strength. Check the stockist list on blokeinabar.com, and we'll see you next week. Cheers, legends.